It's 9 a.m., time for the only garden talk radio show in Milwaukee. Tell your friends, the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener is on the air. Join us and let's grow together.
Coming up on the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener radio show today, it's about planting fall garlic for spring harvest, as well as dealing with that powdery mildew on your plants, as well as the founder of the Weedless gardening method, Lee Reich, will be with us, plus your garden questions. Garden Talk Radio is on the air, and it all starts right now.
Welcome to the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener radio show with your hosts, Joey and Holly Baird, some of the realest gardeners that you'll ever know, always willing to share their knowledge, mistakes, and working to grow together. Founders of the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com that contains over 1,100 garden videos to show and teach others to grow some of what they eat. Join them for the next hour as they cover practical gardening information that has worked for them and more. Now here they are.
It's the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener on 860 AM WNOV and W2936 106.5, as well as to the TuneIn app, the Simple Radio app, and the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com website, where there's a number of videos and podcasts of this radio show located. There's a number of ways in which you can contact us. You can certainly do that by calling in right now and talking to us on the phone through the Ivy Organics 3-in-1 Plant Guard hotline.
Ivy Organic 3-in-1 Plant Guard naturally protects plants against damaging sunburn, insects, and rodents, protects newly installed plants and trees, shields prune and damaged surfaces for use on your roses, fruit, nut trees, ornamental trees, and shrubs. This product is non-toxic, environmentally safe, and organic. For more information, visit ivorganics.com. You can call in right now at 414-444-5250.
As well as you can email us at twvgshow@gmail.com. You can hit us up on Twitter. Our Twitter handle is TWVG Show. I am your host, Joy Baird. Beside me is my wife, co-host, best friend, and gardening partner,
Holly Baird.
Our website, again, is the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com that contains over 1,200 garden videos, as well as every episode of this particular radio program, as well as segments of that as well under the radio tab and the highlight tab. So I want to, we're going to get started on the topic of the day, which is planting garlic. Now, Holly, you say that garlic is the stupidest, easiest crop to grow.
That's what I say. I say garlic is stupid, easy to grow, but it really impresses a lot of people when you harvest this garlic and your coworkers and whatnot, and they're like, that's amazing.
I wonder where the misconception came from, that it seems to be a difficult crop.
I think it's because people do it wrong, and that happened to us.
Yeah, we've done it wrong.
Yeah, we definitely had that issue, I think, was it 2 years in a row?
2 years in a row. We'll tell the story. But let's talk about, there's fall garlic and there's spring garlic. We plant fall garlic, and that's predominantly what many northern garlic growers plant, because garlic needs a number of cold hours in order to produce the bulb to develop correctly. If you do not have those cold hours, your bulb doesn't develop correctly, and you do not have a good garlic bulb that grows.
Right, so
there's two types of garlic.
Two types of garlic. There's hard neck and soft neck. So soft neck basically is, we grow hard neck, and there's a stem that grows through it. And then you get the scapes, and then it turns like a yellowish-brownish color after you cut the scapes off to know when to harvest it. Soft neck doesn't have that stem that grows through it.
It's soft neck, and then the top falls over.
Like an onion, right?
Yeah, when it's ready to harvest.
And it doesn't have the scapes.
Well, let's talk about another variety that's not necessarily a variety. It's called elephant garlic. Well, why can't I grow elephant garlic and get the same characteristics as hard neck and soft neck?
Sure. So elephant garlic is not. It's related to the onion family. It's
the leek family.
Leek family.
Leek family.
It's basically like, I don't know, probably closer to a shallot, but it's not true garlic.
It grows like a spring onion.
Right.
You plant in the spring, harvest it in the fall, and you're done. When we're growing the fall garlic, we're planting it, and we've planted it since we figured out how to do this right, first Saturday in October, and we harvest it typically last week in June, up to the second week in July. So there's a lot of real estate that is tied up with this particular plant.
Yeah, it's a 9-month at least commitment, so you have to keep that in mind. But the good thing is that once you harvest it, you can put things behind it like fall crops.
And you don't necessarily have to utilize a portion of your garden to grow this. You can put it in your rose bed, your flower bed, incorporate it into your landscape so you can have other places to grow tomatoes, peppers, eggplants in the summer months. So let's talk about where we get the seed and the seed stock for our garlic. We just don't go down to the big box store and pick it up.
No.
We've made this mistake.
Right. So if you buy garlic from the grocery store and want to grow it, it's probably not going to grow.
Now, if you buy it from Outpost or Beans and Barley, it's a specific variety, hardneck or softneck. There may be some actual horticultural names tied to that particular item. Then you're okay, because you need to know, the typical big box store, grocery store garlic is what? Is hydroponically grown.
Right.
In Asia,
somewhere. Shipped over. So it's not
generic.
Yeah, it's basically generic. It's not like heirloom vegetables. Like true garlic is more of like an heirloom type thing that you grow.
It's the equivalent of eating a tomato from the grocery store and growing it in your backyard. Same thing, eating garlic from the grocery store and growing in your backyard. It's that total realm of flavor and intensity of nutrients.
Right. So, that's one thing. And then we plant ours in mid-October.
First Saturday in October, as I spoke about. And the reason why is what?
Is because it has time before that first freeze comes to become established.
Right. You want the roots to become established, and then it can go into dormancy and does its overwintering thing. And there's still a little growth that occurs even when it's -4 degrees, but you wanted to get it established. You're planting this 2 to 4 inches in depth based on your conditions. If you've got loose tilt and like a raised bed, 4 inches is fine. Normal traditional garden, 2.5, 3 inches, you're okay with that.
Right.
And you don't have to mulch it.
No. And when you plant it, that's another thing is that we mulched ours too heavy. We put like a foot of straw or 6 to 8 inches of straw on top, and that caused an issue too because it was too much mulch and it was too heavy. So you can mulch it with leaves, that's fine, or just like a thin layer of straw if you want, but too much is not good.
We've chosen, we didn't straw, we made two years mistakes, then we didn't mulch, and it turned out fine. Now, there are, you got the cloves, and then you've got garlic seed. Which is the better alternative here to go with?
You want to do the cloves, because I think when you do the garlic seed, it takes you, I think it's what, 6 years?
24 months.
Oh, 24 months.
24 months to get it.
Oh, yeah, 2 years.
2 years. Mm-hmm. 24 months to get
of how it has to be established.
So when you get your garlic bulbs, whether from the farmer's market, local places, there's a lot of Wisconsin locations in which sells garlic to be planted. You want to get that as soon as possible because they sell out every year. You want to find, you want to break open the bulbs about a couple of days before you're intending to plant, because you want the largest clove you can possibly get out of that bulb. And based on the variety, you may have 5 cloves, or you may have 15 cloves in that bulb. It's variety. It depends. So you want to find the largest cloves to plant for your fall garlic, because that will give you the best chance to have a large bulb. Large cloves equal large bulbs in the spring.
Right, and this is important now because if you planted garlic for the first time last spring, you've harvested it, you're letting it cure, now you can look at it before you start to consume it. You can look and find the largest bulbs.
You don't want to bust them open until about a couple of days before you're intending to plant, because they do dry out and they lose the viability, and you need that good seed stock to get the plants established before the first hard freeze. We want to plant them about 8 to 10 inches apart, rows being 18 inches width, because these will get up to 3 foot tall. The hardneck garlic, which I'm not familiar with softneck because we've never grown it. We've had perfect success with the hardneck. We grow about 70 to 120 bulbs a year. And you want to plant that, again, 8 inches to 10 inches, plant to plant, and then row with 18 inches. Some of the books will say go every 12 inches, but if you go 10 inches, we found no problem. And if you go 8 inches in a 20-foot row, you can get a few more cloves in the ground. Now, before we plant the cloves, let's reverse back for a moment. We want to give the cloves the most opportune chance to germinate as we can. So we want to hydrate them, and we can do this with a variety of different liquids.
So you can use anything from just water to compost tea to weed tea, any of these are good options.
We've always used Mupu tea from Authentic Haven brand, one of the sponsors of the program. Even before they were a sponsor of the program, we used it. You're wanting to hydrate it for 24 hours. Then you're going to go ahead and plant. The reason why we hydrate it is to basically infuse the internal portions of that clove with nutrients, with moisture, so it can begin to sprout almost immediately once it goes in the ground. So now let's fast forward. We've planted in first Saturday in October. We haven't mulched it. We've let it be. It has sprouted 3 or 4 inches. Totally fine. Don't worry about it. So it comes early March, mid-March, and you begin to see these plants erupt out of the ground and begin to grow vertically very, very rapidly. That also is the time we see a lot of weeds start to develop. So there's a couple of things you want to do. You want to top dress or feed your plants. You don't want to feed the garlic in the fall because you don't want to get it so energized.
Like
you don't want to boost it in the fall. Right. You want it
to
establish.
Feed it now. You can feed it in the spring. And then if you haven't mulched it, you can mulch it. You would want to remove those weeds carefully around it. Don't pull too hard because it's still developing there. And then you would want to mulch around it after you feed it, and that'll help suppress some of the weeds.
Well, I use the term called top dressing. For people who may be new to that term,
well, it's typically called side dressing.
Okay.
And side dressing means that you're adding fertilizer to the soil next to the garlic. So you
liquid or granular or compost or what?
Yeah, you can use liquid or granular or compost, whatever it is. If it's granular, you want to mix it in gently. Liquid, you obviously would pour it into the soil. And then compost, you could just simply place on top.
Okay.
And then you would put your mulch over whatever you do.
And then you leave it alone until you begin to see scapes developing.
Right. So scape is basically, you'll see it develop at the top. It has like this little nodule on it. And then it kind of curls usually. And so what you would do is you just trim that off. When you see those scapes develop, you go to where the junction of that scape is with the plant. You just trim them off. And the scapes are edible. They're really good. They're just garlicky, like a more mild garlic flavor, but they're delicious.
For people who grow abundance of hardneck garlic, restaurants will pay a premium because it is a delicacy for 2 weeks a year.
Yeah, and it's a timely thing.
And you can eat this. You can make garlic pesto. I mean, you have to like garlic a lot in order to make garlic pesto with it. You can stir fry it, just eat it raw, and or grill it on the grill it. So
add it to your eggs.
Add it to your eggs. You can play with it as if you would onion chives. That type of thing, to a certain level. So once we've removed, and this is typically May, late May, or mid-May.
Mid to end of May, early
is
June.
When we remove the scapes.
You'll know,
right?
Yeah,
and then
it takes.
Then we wait.
You take about 2 to 3 weeks, and then you wait, and then you'll see the leaves of the garlic start to brown or yellow.
This is for hard-neck garlic. Soft-neck garlic, the plant will fall over to indicate when it is ready because there is no structure of the stem to keep it upright even if the plant dies or when the plant dies.
And you don't have to worry about the scapes of the soft-neck either. Right. So you'll know either the stem will fall over or you'll have the leaves. And
then you want to harvest it and cure it. Curing is a process in which we hang it or set it somewhere, not pile it in a big pile, to allow the top portion, we leave it all intact, allow the top portion to dry, and we set it vertically so the top juices in the green can gravitate down to the bulb to infuse more flavor into it. We can use it right away, called green garlic, not a problem with that, but we want to cure it. And we want to put it in a place where it's got good air circulation. It's not in a plastic bag because then you have a bag full of garlic slime because it can't breathe.
Right. So something like a basket, a porous basket, even like a cardboard box, as long as you don't pile it up too much. You want something that can have some...
You can hang it in the basement.
Yeah, you can do that
I mean, we grow 100 bulbs, so most people may only grow a fraction of that. But that's how you do garlic. And then you store it in a cardboard box, somewhere out of direct sunlight, somewhere cool, and you can get about 8 to 9 months out of the actual bulb there. Again, we harvest it and we save the cloves, the largest cloves, for the following planting. But that's essentially how you grow garlic. Now, we want to harvest it when the plant is beginning to die back. Yeah, I've got questions. When do I need to harvest my garlic? It's been dead for a while now. Can I just leave it? Well, 2 problems with that. One, if you leave it in the ground and it's dead, there's going to be a lot of moisture when it rains or when you water or whatever the case is that can increase the likelihood of getting moisture into the clove, into the bulb, and beginning to rot. Secondly, if you leave it in too long, them cloves will begin to sprout underneath the ground, and then you've got a cluster of garlic stalks, and you're not utilizing the potential of what you could if you would have harvested it and used it for in the kitchen or planting later that year.
Right.
So that's how, in a very quick aspect on how to grow garlic. If you've never grown it, absolutely you should try to grow it. It's very, very easy, and we've got a number of videos on the website, the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com, that can help you in great detail and show you exactly how we do it. Well, when we come back, we're going to tackle a topic that we are facing, you're probably facing. It's called powdery mildew. We'll describe the symptoms and go over how we can fix it right after this.
.24/7, 365. The WisconsinVegetableGardener.com has all the gardening information you need. Videos, digital magazines, replays of shows, and more.
The number one key to healthy, productive plants are the roots. Starting from seed to full-grown plants, RootMaker.com has the answer. From seed starting trays with an innovative design that air prunes the roots, creating a fabulous root system, never again will you have root-bound plants, to multiple gallon grow bag sizes to raised beds. RootMaker.com has your grow needs covered. Visit RootMaker.com. Do you have a problem with deer or small herbivores eating your vegetation? There is a natural solution that is safe for your pets and family. Bobex is the answer. An environmentally friendly solution to protect your plants, will not wash off, and is guaranteed. Bobex Deer was independently tested against 9 known competitors and rated 93% effective, second only to a physical barrier. Bobex can be used on all types of ornamentals, trees, and shrubs. Ask for it by name at your local independent garden center. Find out more, visit Bobex.com. BOBBEX.com.
Woodman's is a Wisconsin-based family-owned company founded in 1919. They offer low prices in every single aisle every day. No need to carry a discount card. From produce to meat to international to natural and organic, all offered at the lowest possible prices. Over 60,000 products at every store. Service and savings every day. They're employee-owned to help you save money. They also offer online shopping for pickup and delivery, working to save you more money. Visit woodmans-food.com to find the nearest location.
Flame Engineering, home of the Weed Dragon, the perfect propane torch kit for home and garden use. For killing weeds, no need to pull or spray. 100 other uses. Find out more at flameengineering.com. The Gardener's Hollow Leg, the debris and harvesting bag you wear, comes with its own belt attachment, perfect for doing light pruning, weeding, harvesting on the ground or on a ladder, and many other uses. Find out more at thegardenershollowleg.com. Save 10% by using the word veggies at checkout. Zaz Products, offering great quality supplements that can help personal health and increase longevity. Committed to bringing you the highest quality products at the lowest price. Find out more at ZazProducts.com.
Blue Mel's Garden and Landscape Center offers an awesome selection of high-quality garden and landscape products. We have just the plants you're looking for: annuals, perennials, veggies, herbs, and more. Plus, you can always count on us to answer all of your questions and offer expert advice. Blue Mel's also carries the largest selection of bulk landscape materials in the area. Enjoy a beverage from our coffee shop while your kids run around in our huge playground. Join our growing list of highly satisfied customers. Visit the garden center that offers everything you're looking for. Visit Blue Mel's today.
Blue Mel's, 4930 West Loomis Road, 414-282-4220. The Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show is brought to you by the following: Flame Engineering, Eco Garden Systems, Bobex, Plant Success, Beans and Barley, M.I. Gardener, Outpost Natural Food Co-op, Root Assassin, Manure Tea, The Gardener's Hollow Leg. Find all sponsors at the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com and thank them for their support.
Now back to the Wisconsin Vegetable Garden Radio Show.
You didn't mention that I was a sailboat trailer expert.
Oh, yeah. We're coming here, and there was this trailer, and I didn't know what it was. And I said, oh, that's a sailboat trailer, which I didn't know that you had any knowledge of sailboat expertise whatsoever.
Well, I've grown up by water my whole life, so I know things.
Well, I know tractors, so there you go.
With your hosts, Joey and Holly Baird.
We all deal with problems in our garden, and it seems like every week we find another issue that our plants are suffering from. And one at this particular time of the year, late summer, is a disease called powdery mildew. And this is predominantly on your zucchini, cucumbers, pumpkins, melons. Holly, what is powdery mildew to begin with so we can identify it, and maybe we didn't know we had it, or we can say, yeah, we do have that.
It is, it's a white powdery substance, sometimes gray, definitely like a very light gray if it is gray. And there's spots, and it appears on the leaves, sometimes the vines, sometimes even the fruit. But most of the time it's on the leaves, and the look of it is usually worse than the actual damage. And then a lot of times if you touch it, you will get like a powdery substance on your finger. And it's not harmful or anything. It's just
it's harmful to the plant. It's not harmful to you.
Right, because what it's doing is it's cutting off kind of the chance for the plant to absorb what it needs from the sun.
It's creating a barrier.
Yeah, it's creating a barrier. So it's not allowing for proper photosynthesis. However, there are ways you can deal with it.
Well, number one, if you only see it on one or two leaves, let's say we're talking about a zucchini plant, zucchini grows in a bush. So if you only see it on one or two leaves, remove those leaves, the stalk, the whole deal, cut it right at the base where it's coming out of the actual main trunk, and burn it, throw it in the trash. Don't burn it. Now, when you remove it, be very careful because those powdery mildew spores can drop on adjacent plants and or on the plant in which you're removing it from, and it can spread that way. Secondly, if you've got 3 plants and the center plant is completely covered in powdery mildew and the other 2 are not, as hard as it is, you want to remove that plant. If you can harvest any of the fruit off of it, that is of size, go ahead and do that, and then remove the plant in its entirety to get it out, because it will spread to the other plants. It's just a matter of time. If you have a sporadic infection or a sporadic display of it across multiple different plants or areas of your garden, there are several home remedies that will work to either diffuse it or greatly slow it down, in which will allow the plant to fully develop the fruit in which it's growing, so you can get a harvest out of it. Now, the conditions are, sometimes it's beyond our control. High humidity, moisture on the leaves, it doesn't allow the plant to dry. The environment doesn't allow the leaves to dry off before nighttime temperatures come, and mold develops, just like you would with powdery mildew. Mildew, just like in the bathroom. If it doesn't dry out, mildew begins to form in areas where moisture is concentrated. So that's the same premise as happening on your plants. So what can we do in order to delay, repel, dilute, slow down the powdery mildew, in which our zucchini, pumpkin, eggplant, zucchini, pumpkin, watermelon, cucumbers may have, and they can be other plants that develop this type of disease.
Right. So So one thing that a lot of people do is they don't realize that they're crowding their plants. Mm-hmm. And I know we talk about intensive planting and things like that, but
there's a pro to that, and this is a con to that.
This is definitely a con to that. Because what happens is that if your plants, as they start to grow and develop and sprawl out, because it happens a lot, like we mentioned with a lot of these viney plants, they sprawl out, and then you have this issue because they're kind of suffocating themselves in a way. Mm-hmm. And that powdery mildew is just going to continue to spread from plant to plant. It can happen with other things, but definitely with the powdery mildew. Another thing is you have to make sure that you are minimizing shade. So if you're planting these plants and you say, like, this is your first year having powdery mildew, pay attention to where that plant is. Mm-hmm. Are you allowing it to have enough sunlight? Is it in a shadier spot? We've had a pretty humid summer, so it's not going to be uncommon that this is occurring, but it's something to think about, like, during the day. Is it getting proper sunlight to dry those leaves off?
And if it's occurring in your garden, we're not saying you're a bad gardener. We followed all the recommendations, and we have some of it developing in our garden as well. So it happens to everybody. It's not because, oh, you're a new gardener and you did X, Y, Z wrong. It can happen if you do everything perfectly as well, because of the environment, because of the humidity that's in the air and not allowing it to dry out at the end of the day.
Right. Another thing is that you want to avoid over-fertilization. Now, this can be a problem because it could cause the plant to grow too quickly, crowd itself out, and then cause further issues. So you want to do something like a slow release fertilizer, which is going to allow the plant to grow more naturally.
So if we have this now, we talked about removing the small amounts of leaves that may be infected, but what if the whole plant is infected? What if we have a very large covering on our plants? What can we do to fix or slow down the problem?
Okay, so there are some fungicide things that you can do that you can buy at your local garden center. But I would prefer, and you can go and find them and talk to the people, and they'll be helpful. I want to talk about things that you can do that's going on in your house that you can use to help this problem.
Which we have done,
right.
and it does slow it down. The purpose of what Holly's going to talk about here is we're applying this to the leaves, which is going to break apart that mildew or that powder substance to allow the plant to absorb the sun to photosynthesize.
Right. So the first one is apparently baking soda is the ideal one that you want to use. So you would water down the baking soda so you have a baking soda spray.
Right. But water is the problem here. Water and moisture, this is the delivery mechanism in which we're using to get these applications onto the plant to dilute the mildew.
And you can combine this with like some dish soap or some cast towel soap, something like that. So you have the combination of the baking soda with a little bit of soap and water, and then what you do is you just spray it all over the leaves, underneath the leaves, kind of all around, and it'll help that situation. So it'll be 1 tablespoon of baking soda, 1 tablespoon of liquid soap to 1 gallon of water. And then you would spray on your plants every 1 to 2 weeks as needed. Now, if you start to see this and you're like, it's going to go away on its own. First of all, it's not. Second of all, if you start to see this, then you want to take care of it as soon as possible. That's another thing. Is it's kind of like, when we get sick, a lot of times it can spiral into something else.
Right. And with the application, we are spraying it. We're not scrubbing. We're not touching the leaves. We're simply spraying this application of this mixture on the plant on the top and bottom.
And we had success with milk.
Yeah.
It was diluted milk. I think it was like 1 to 2 parts milk to water, but we had success with that. And then vinegar, I've heard, works well, and potassium bicarbonate, which is basically similar to baking soda. And then mouthwash, because the acidity in both the mouthwash and the vinegar help break down that powdery mildew.
Now, if you want a specific recipe, go to your favorite search engine and type in powdery mildew remedies, Joe Lampo, Growing a Greener World, and he's on PBS, and he has a number of recipes that he has used that works very well for him that we have followed, and it breaks down to the actual measurement and applicational rate for each one of these that we have spoke about. So with that being said, powdery mildew, we want to fix the problem, otherwise it's going to kill the plant. And some people have said, oh, well, I've had it and the plant has grown fine. Good for you. We've had it and it's killed our plant. So we want to be, try to be that's why you've got to be aware of what's going on in your garden. You just can't walk out their plant and come back in 60 days and harvest. You've got to continue to look. So when we come back, we will speak with...
We're going to speak with Dr. Lee Reich, and he's a soil researcher for the USDA. He's got a lot of great information.
He's the founder of the Weedless gardening method, Weedless gardening without chemicals, which is a method in which we found and we are trying to practice. Not nearly as successful as Lee is, but we'll talk to Lee right after this.
Got a question? Email the show at twvgshow@gmail.com.
Garden seeds do not have to cost a fortune, just 99 cents at migardener.com. Now with over 450 varieties of non-GMO, heirloom, and organic flower, vegetable, and herb seeds available year-round. Pay less and get more seeds. Shipping as low as $2.50. That just makes sense. Go to migardener.com for seeds and garden needs, tools, and special blend fertilizers. migardener.com. It's that simple. Family owned and operated. Using beets for hair dye? This garden fun fact is sponsored by ManureTea.com. Get your 3-pack today. Drop the tea bag in water, let steep, then feed your soil, not your plants. 100% organic. Find out more at ManureTea.com. Always free shipping. Beets contain betaine, a substance that relaxes the mind and is used in other forms to treat depression. It also contains tryptophan, found in chocolate too, which contributes to the sense of well-being. Since the 16th century, beet juice has been used as a natural red dye. England, Victorians used it to dye their hair red.
Mycorrhizae is a beneficial fungus from PlantSuccessOrganics.com that will greatly increase your plant's germination ability and healthier root structure. You can increase seed sprouting, root growth, and general plant germination. Mycorrhizae can be used with hydroponic root cutting, seed sprouting, cocoa coir, and soil. PlantSuccessOrganics.com carries powder, granule, and tablet form of mycorrhizae. Increase the level of mycorrhizae in your soil to give your plant the optimal opportunity to produce incredible harvests. For more information and to purchase, visit PlantSuccessOrganics.com. Do you enjoy hanging baskets but struggle to keep them properly watered? The Plant Booster Self-Watering System is a mechanical system that will ensure optimal soil moisture at all times by reacting to the weight of each plant. The weight of each plant tells the system how much water it needs, unlike a timer-controlled system where all plants get water at the same time, whether they need it or not. Also ideal for condos or apartments with no outdoor water source. Check out details, videos, and extensive explanation and ideas for application at plantbooster.net. Beans and Barley Marketing Cafe, a neighborhood specialty grocery store for the east side and greater Milwaukee area where you can find all you need, from fresh produce to bakery to organic frozen dinners, from wine to fresh squeezed carrot juice. A health food store has hundreds of products, vitamins, supplements, bath and body items, magazines, cards, books, and a knowledgeable staff. Catering available, open daily at 8 a.m. The restaurant serves breakfast, lunch, and dinner 7 days a week with a menu of good, healthy, homemade food, including vegetarian and non-vegetarian specialties. 1901 East North Avenue, Milwaukee, 414-278-7878, and online at beansandbarley.com.
Tall Earth Wood Treatment, all-in-one preservative and stain, offers lifetime protection and creates a unique silver-aged wood finish. All ingredients are non-toxic, eco-friendly, perfect for garden beds and veg truck. Find out more at tallearth.com. Free shipping on all orders. Use coupon code WISCONVEG to save 15% off orders placed at tallearth.com. Shield and Seal Vacuum Sealers and the highest quality vacuum sealing products. Unique black and clear and all black bags, protecting your produce and product better than traditional bags. Find out more at shieldandseal.com. Rebel Green, responsibly made natural products that are good for you and the environment. Made in the USA, plant-based, vegan, and always toxic-free. Find out more at rebelgreen.com. Use coupon code WIVEG15 to save 15% off your next purchase at rebelgreen.com/shop. The Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show is brought to you by the following: Haas Tools, Tree Diver, Root Maker, Seeding Square, Rebel Green, Dripping Springs Oils, Zaz Products, Shield and Seal, Pomona Universal Pectin. Find all sponsors at the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com and thank them for their support.
Now back to the Wisconsin Vegetable Garden Radio Show with your hosts, Joey and Holly Baird.
Well, what are you doing this afternoon between, now and 1 o'clock? Well, if you've got nothing on your agenda, you can certainly come over to Blue Mills Landscape and Garden Center because they have their summer market. This is the second of 2 weeks that they have it. We were there last week.
Even if you have something to do, you should just drop what you're doing and come by.
They've got 4 additional vendors today. They have, I think, somewhere around 25 to 30 vendors.
Yeah, it's really cool.
And it's not just produce.
No, they have all sorts of crafty stuff. They have stuff for pets. They have, essential oil type stuff. There was a taco truck there last week. I'm assuming it's coming back. So it's really cool. It's from 9 to 1. And it's this week again. And that's going to be at 4930 West Loomis Road in Greenfield, just south of Layton. We'll be there after the show. If you have any questions, you can call 414-282-4220. Go to bluemills.com. Even if you just want to stop by and get a cup of coffee, they have the coffee.
There is no requirement that you have to buy anything. You can just look, pick up business cards, go to their websites, venture, and just communicate and talk and see what they have to offer. Blue Mills Landscape and Garden Center, second week of the summer market over there at Blue Mills Landscape and Garden Center. Well, Holly, let's go to the Ivy Organics 3-in-1 Plant Guard Hotline and bring in our next guest.
Dr. Lee Reich is a former plant and soil researcher for the USDA and professor of horticulture, author, and longtime avid gardener. He's mastered the art of weedless gardening, all without chemicals. Welcome to the program.
Good to be here.
Well, we appreciate you taking time out of your very busy schedule to join Holly, myself, and our listeners to enlighten us with some of your garden wisdom to help us be better gardeners.
Yeah, hope so.
So Holly and I do not till, and nor do you, but tilling is a very common practice in many gardens. Why do you not till?
Well, it all started out that I had read some stuff about weed seeds being buried in the soil, waiting for light, basically, to come alive. And so by not tilling, you don't bring them up to the surface where they're exposed to light. So that was the main reason I stopped tilling. But it also has a lot of other benefits. You know, it's good for the earthworms and the fungi in the soil, doesn't disrupt them, and really helps preserve soil organic matter, which has a lot of other benefits also. So those are the main reasons I don't till.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Lee, I've heard that there's some weed seeds that can lay dormant in the soil for 70 to 80 years, and when we till, we've like brought things back that our great-grandparents probably left there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, some could go even longer. They're just, and the thing is, when you till, they don't all come up at once. Each year, some stay dormant so that they can come up later in case they didn't get the first round.
Okay, so what exactly is weedless gardening?
So, first of all, I always like to correct people. It's weedless gardening, but it's really weedless gardening. So you do have to weed. But anyway, it's this 4-part system that I came up with that really does drastically reduce the amount of weeding needed and has other benefits also to plants in the garden.
So we found your method whenever Joe Lampo, host of Growing a Greener World, visited your garden on episode 410 of the program, and we've begun to practice it, obviously not to the level of success in which you have, but you've been doing your particular gardening in your location for, 30 years now?
Yeah, about 30 years.
And talk about each year, you don't till, but each year you add amendments or compost to your garden. And how does the recipe go? How much do you add each year to the garden beds?
So each year, first of all, the bed's permanent. You can't just not till and garden as usual because the soil can get compacted then. So I have permanent beds that I never walk in. And those beds each year, once a year, doesn't matter when, but typically in the fall, I'll put down a 1-inch depth of compost. And that, besides, not allowing me not to till, that also actually adds all the fertility I need for a year also. And in addition, snuffs out any small weed seedling. It's a mulch also, so the weed seedlings are killed. So that helps make it even more weedless.
Now, with your compost, you're making that on your property, and what is the key to a successful compost pile? Because a lot of people try to make compost, and they find that when they use it, they've got a lot of weed seeds that are germinating, and they can't figure out what did they do wrong. What's the secret there?
Well, I think one of the main things generally for making compost is to have a good bin, and a lot of people use fencing for bins because they think all that air has to get in. But I use a bin. I make it out of artificial wood decking, and it interlocks together, and it keeps weed seeds out, keeps heat in, keeps moisture in. And if you let it, my compost gets very hot. If it gets hot enough, it'll kill weed seeds. But if you don't have a compost that gets very hot, if you just let it sit longer, that will also kill a lot of weed seeds. I think bin is the most important first step.
Is there a recommendation for a specific size of compost in order to have that temperature to that right level?
Yeah, well, usually you need a critical mass to be able to generate that temperature. So the minimum size is usually a cubic yard, so 3 feet by 3 feet by 3 feet, which isn't that big. Mine are a little bigger than that. But that's a good minimum size just to make sure the heat can build up in there.
Fantastic. Now, what are the 4 steps to weedless gardening?
So the first thing is not tilling. And each step also has other benefits. Like one benefit that's obvious for not tilling is you don't have to till the garden. And so another step is to make the garden into beds, as I said, because you can't just not till and do everything else as usual, or you'll get soil compaction. So make permanent beds in the garden. My beds are 3 feet wide with 18-inch wide paths between them. And the third step is to never allow the soil to be bare. So either have a crop growing on it or have a mulch of some material, or the mulch could be that compost. So you never want it bare. And this helps snuff out small weed seedlings that might try and germinate. It just shades them out. And then the fourth step, if you are going to irrigate, and you don't have to irrigate every garden, but if you want maximum production from vegetables, it's good to irrigate. So if you are going to irrigate, use drip irrigation. And by pinpointing water, it doesn't stimulate weeds to grow, say, in the paths or between widely spaced plants. So not only does it suppress weed growth, but it also saves a lot of water. It typically saves about 60% of water over sprinkling. So those are the 4 steps. Don't till, permanent bed, keep the soil covered, and if you are going to irrigate, use drip irrigation.
Well, since you are a former soil researcher for the United States Department of Agriculture, I'll ask you this question in regards to soil. I have heard, as you have mentioned, we want to cover the soil. For gardeners who do not cover the soil and have nothing growing there, how much damage are we actually allowing the soil to have without it being covered?
Well, first of all, one thing is if you don't cover it, Mother Nature will cover it, which means what we know is weeds will come in. So that's one reason to cover it. And the other thing is, it's subject to wind and water erosion. Rainfall just pounding on bare soil surface just seals the surface and then runs off and then pulls with it some of the best parts of the soil as far as plants are concerned. So it's really good to cover the soil. And as I said, if you don't do it, Mother Nature will do it, and you might not like what she does it with.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely agree. Why are herbicides bad?
Well, herbicides, I think on the one hand, there's some controversy over things, some herbicides like Roundup, on health effects on humans. So I would avoid them for that alone. The other thing that people often overlook, that nature clothes the soil no matter what. And if you use a certain type of herbicide, you're basically doing an experiment, and you're breeding for weeds that can tolerate that. So you might get rid of one weed, but all of a sudden another weed that really can tolerate that herbicide will get a little foothold there, and then that'll take over. So it's really a short-term benefit. And also there's something, and this is more my opinion, and it's something that necessarily applies to everyone. But when you do weeding, weeding can be tedious if you have too much, but if you do what I said, you have much less weeding and it becomes actually enjoyable. And when you weed, you sort of get very intimate with the soil. You see what plants are there. You see how the soil feels. And I think you obviously lose that if you're just going to go over with a sprayer and spray the ground. And I have to say, with all that said, there is one herbicide I do use. I have a brick terrace, and it's really hard. All these weeds keep popping up between the bricks. So what I use in that case is I use vinegar, which is very non-toxic generally, and it's a contact killer, and also it breaks down. It's acetic acid, which is a naturally occurring chemical, and breaks down in the soil. So there's really no negative effects except for killing the foliage of the plants I spray, and that's quite effective, straight household vinegar.
And some of these toxic chemicals, they do not dissipate in the soil. Some will stay there for years and, if not, increase in the level of the damage it's doing to the soil. Am I wrong on this?
Well, I'm not sure. There's all sorts of unknowns, basically, with these herbicides. And, so I don't know if I am familiar with all the details, to make a definitive statement, except that there's a lot of unknowns and controversies and new findings. So I think it's best to just stay away from them.
Yeah, right. The unknown is the scary enough reason to not use them for a area in which you're intending to grow plants that you're going to eat.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Surely for plants that you're going to eat.
Okay.
Now, and you talked about your weedless garden, WEED space LESS, and if people go on Growing a Greener World episode 410. And this is no joke. Tell people how long it takes for you to weed your garden on an average week. How many minutes are we looking?
Right. So if people looked at my garden, they would say, "Yeah, this garden's I would call weedless." And so I often try to compute how much time I spent weeding, because that would be of interest to a lot of people. And I never actually sat down and made an exact calculation, but I would say off the top of my head, in the spring it's a little more, but generally through the growing season, I might spend 5 minutes a week weeding. It's 2,000 square feet of vegetables.
Yeah, amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's quite easy. And in rainy seasons such as this season that we've had here, it'll be a little more. But generally, that dry season is really good because then the drip irrigated parts of the garden get all the water they want, and nothing else does, and no weeds are stimulated elsewhere. And probably less than 5 minutes a week. If I see a weed, I walk by to pick some tomatoes, I'll bend down and pull the weed.
And the problem that many of us gardeners face is we don't keep up with the weeds, and we get to a point where many of us are right now. The weeds are going to seed and dropping seeds, so it's an evil cycle that we can't catch up on because we weren't on top of it when we should have been, and it continues to get out of control.
Oh, you're right, and that's. I always think that around early July is when people start to fade. Their enthusiasm of spring starts to fade, and if only people would keep it up, it's really not that hard to weed. It just takes only a few minutes a week, and not only do you get less weeds the following year then, but one other big benefit is I'm a big fan of fall gardening. So in September, the tomatoes start to fade out, and all those summer vegetables and cucumbers. But there's some other vegetables that are really going to like that cool, moisture weather from then, going into December or even sometimes in December. So I always have seedlings ready and plants already in the ground of things like endive and kale and lettuce and radishes and these things. So all of a sudden the garden does this photographic transformation from all those, bright colored summer vegetables. Everything's lush and green and it's just a big harvest. It's like having a whole other garden. But one of the keys to it, as you said, is you just keep up with the weeding. And, not only do you get less weeds because they're not going to seed the next year, but you also have this whole other garden. It's a lot to harvest.
Great. Now, how many books have you wrote? And if you had to pick one, what book is your favorite and why?
Well, that's a tough one. It's easy to say. I wrote 7 books and parts of a number of other books. My favorite... How about my favorite 3?
Okay.
4. So Weedless Gardening is one of my favorites because it's more than just weedlessness. It really gives a lot of, I think, fundamental soil information in a friendly manner. And I think, soil is the foundation of good gardening, good soil. So I present a lot of that. Another one of my favorites is, of course, my newest book, which is called The Ever-Curious Gardener, Using a Little Natural Science for a Much Better Garden. And I think, and the reason I like this is because this really it ties together much of what I do is the science behind agriculture, which I've been exposed to a lot of that science, and then to sort of show how each scientific concept you can apply directly in the garden and have a better garden. So and it makes gardening more interesting too. So that's also one of my favorites. And I happen to be a fruit nut. I really like to grow fruits. And I wrote a book called Uncommon Fruits for Every Garden. It's about some uncommon fruits, of course. And the nice thing about these fruits is they're very easy to grow as opposed to, say, apples and peaches are much, much harder to grow than these fruits. And there'll be things like gooseberries and currants and low-bush blueberries, lingonberries. And so being a fruit nut, that's one of my favorites. And then just one other book I got to throw in there is the pruning book, just because... I think it's a really good book because it really covers just about everything in pruning. I have just about general concepts on pruning. I have specific, just about every plant you can imagine. And then the fun part is at the end I have a section on special techniques that includes things like topiary and pollarding and espalier, where you make these fancy designs with plants. And that's a lot of fun.
So, Lee, we greatly appreciate you taking time out of your day to enlighten us. How can people find more about you and get your books?
They can do both by going to my website, which is www.leereich.com.
Well, Lee, we thank you so much for coming on the program and sharing your garden wisdom with Holly, myself, and all of our listeners.
Well, thanks for having me, and it's been a lot of fun for me.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And when we come back, your garden questions and our garden answers right after this.
If you have a gardening question, now is the time to call in on the ivorganics.com 3-in-1 Plant Guard hotline at 414-444 888-872-5250.
The Handy Safety Knife is a patented, high-quality knife that's worn like a ring, so it's always conveniently at hand and very easy and efficient to work with. That's why you'll find the Handy Safety Knife at work in a wide range of industries and applications. Learn more at handysafetyknife.com. Place an order for your business. Call toll-free 866-294-3424.
Use coupon code WVG to get 10% off and free shipping, one-time use only at handysafetyknife.com.
Haas Tools wants to help you grow your own food. From seed starting supplies, hand tools, drip irrigation, harvesting equipment, and a complete line of all-natural pest control solutions, they've got you covered. Keep your garden weed-free with their time-tested, American-made wheel hose that are built to last a lifetime. And their precision garden seeders have proven design for planting a wide variety of seeds. Haas Tools has what you need to get the most out of your growing space, large or small. Free shipping and outstanding customer service. Shop online or request a free catalog at HaasTools.com. Pomona's Universal Pectin is high-quality pectin that gels reliably with low amounts of any sweetener. If you're trying to reduce the amount of sugar in your diet, you'll love Pomona's Universal Pectin. Now you can make healthy homemade jams and jellies sweetened to your taste. You can use sugar, honey, or any alternative sweetener you'd like. Pomona's Universal Pectin keeps indefinitely when stored in an airtight container. Easy to use, versatile, and comes with directions and recipes in every box. Find out more and where to buy at PomonaPectin.com. Available at most natural food stores and online.
Root Assassin, a garden tool that does all the root functions with its advanced shovel that has serrated edges on both sides. Find out more information at rootAssassinShovel.com. Purple Cow Organics quickly and naturally increases the uptake of nutrients and water to your plants with their new Bioactive Vegetable Supercharger designed to meet the unique needs by helping the living organisms in the soil help plants uptake the nutrients more quickly through their roots and leaves. Find out more at purplecoworganics.com.
Blue Mel's Garden and Landscape Center offers an awesome selection of high-quality garden and landscape products. We have just the plants you're looking for: annuals, perennials, veggies, herbs, and more. Plus, you can always count on us to answer all of your questions and offer expert advice. Blue Mel's also carries the largest selection of bulk landscape materials in the area. Enjoy a beverage from our coffee shop while your kids run around in our huge playground. Join our growing list of highly satisfied customers. Visit the garden center that offers everything you're looking for. Visit Blue Mel's today.
Blue Mel's, 4930 West Loomis Road, 414-282-4220. The Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener is brought to you by the following: Handy Safety Knife, BioSafe, Tall Earth, Chapin International, The Plant Booster, Ivy Organics, Woodman's Market, Blue Mel's Landscaping Garden Center, Purple Cow Organics. Find all sponsors at the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com and thank them for their support.
Now back to the Wisconsin Vegetable Garden Radio Show with your hosts, Joey and Holly Baird.
You can certainly call into the Ivy Organics 3-in-1 Plant Garden hotline, just like our next caller. Caller, you're on the air. Are you there, caller?
Hello?
Hello, you're on the air.
Hi, I have a question. I have some of that powdery mildew you're talking about on my squash plants.
Okay.
If I cut the vine off, let's say, and there's, good-sized squash on there, can that ripen off the vine? It's probably got a couple weeks yet to go.
It will not ripen off the vine if you remove the squash. What type of squash are we looking at?
It's butternut.
Okay. So how much of the plant would you say the leaves are infected? 60?
I'd say probably about half.
Okay. So what you want to do is, off that half that is infected, just cut the leaves off the half that is infected, and that will lessen the stress on the plant. Or that will stress the plant out more to ripen the fruit that is already on the plant.
Uh-huh.
And then if you can make the mixture and spray on the other half to dilute that powdery mildew, so you can get this fruit to ripen to its mature state, you'll be good shape there.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the call, and thank you for listening.
Bye.
And that will, I do want to make mention that Barbara emailed us this week and said, hey, I love my weed dragon from Flame Engineering. Flame Engineering, a sponsor this show on the program. They recently, just last week, re-upped their contract for 2019. So we're happy that they're coming back, and I'm glad that Barbara likes the product that they produce. All right, a few more questions here. Ethan messaged us and said that he's wanting to grow pole beans, scarlet runner beans for that matter, next year, and he wants to know if he could use fishing line from the deck to the ground. Would that work? And that absolutely would work. Scarlet runner beans are a pole bean variety in which they need an item, some type of device in order to crawl up. So whether you put like a cattle panel, hog panel, string, juke rope, whatever type of material, any type of trellis for them to crawl up. And you can also be creative like Ethan wants to and run fishing line from the deck down to the ground and have them crawl up and kind of create a canopy. Now, if you're going to do this, you want to get a very heavy test line of fishing line. You don't want to do the cheap 2-pound test weight line. You want something 20 or 30 or 40, even 50 pounds. There is going to be a tremendous amount of weight on these the fishing line as these plants develop and crawl up. But very good, ideal, and yes, it definitely will work. All right, another question. I think we've addressed this, but I do want to reference it again, as we had another question come in asking, can I just leave my garlic in the ground and harvest it when I need it? It's died almost completely back. And, well, there's two folds to this answer. One, you could leave it in the ground, yes. You want to harvest it when the bottom two sets of leaves are died back. That's when you can harvest your garlic. If you leave it in the ground, there's two problems that can happen. One, as the moisture, we've had rain now, and as it rains more, the plant is already dead, so it's not uptaking moisture, and the cloves can actually rot in the ground. There can be critters that will gnaw on the cloves or the bulbs, as well as if we get to a certain point and you leave it in too long, the cloves will actually begin to grow sprouts, and you're going to have a cluster of garlic there, and you're not going to have bulbs that has cloves in which you can use for cooking or save for planting here in the next couple of weeks here in the northern climates. So you want to harvest it as soon as possible, get it to dry, get it to cure. Even if the bulb and the plant is already dead, let it dry, hang naturally for a couple of weeks just to make sure that there's no moisture that is built up inside of that bulb that could cause potential problems. And finally, why are my tomatoes splitting? Well, here's the situation very briefly. We haven't had rain for a long time. Then we have rain. The plant uptakes so much moisture in the plant that it puts it all to the fruit. The fruit does not grow fast enough to absorb all that moisture. So the skin begins to crack because there's more moisture in the fruit of the tomato than it can deal with. So what we want to do is consistently water. So if we water on a regimen of Monday, Wednesday, Friday, something of that nature, so there's always moisture to uptake, it will prevent or greatly reduce the amount of cracking that your tomatoes are going to have. But it's no water, a lot of water. The plant can't handle that, sucks it all up, and it actually cracks the skin of tomatoes, and it actually can blow the bottom out of them as well. That will wrap the show up. We are out of time, and we appreciate your time, you joining us each Saturday morning to hopefully learn a little bit of what we have to offer. Programming note, join us next week when we're going to talk about drying and storing herbs the correct way, as well as preserving your harvest in the refrigerator. We're going to talk about like refrigerator pickles and that type of preserving method, as well as host of Growing a Greener World on PBS. Mr. Joe Lampo will be with us to enlighten us with some of his gardening techniques to help all of us, not only now, but in the fall and next spring. Miss any portion of this program or want to revisit it in its entirety, you can certainly do that by going to the radio tab at the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com website and clicking on it. There you will find all shows in their entirety in podcast form and in-studio video replay. You want to find a specific interview or individual segment or topic, you can find that over on the highlight tab on the main page of the same website. Until next week, for Holly Baird, I'm Joy Baird, and we will see you in the garden.
You've been listening to the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show. Tell a friend and join Joey and Holly again next week so we can all grow together. The Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show is a production of the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com in association with WI Garden Media Broadcasting, live from the WNOV 860 AM and the W293CX 106.5 FM, Courier Communication Studios in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.